Hello, everyone. This is Yeshua Said My Name, YSMN. I hope the day is finding you well and close with the Lord. This video is going to be pretty much a two-part segment. I wanted to make this first part about an interview that was done from News Nation with Congressman Tim Burchett. He is as far as I know, he comes from a biblical perspective on the UFO UAP phenomenon. He even mentions the book of Ezekiel. He mentions certain scriptures in this interview with News Nation on this topic. Those of you who have followed my channel know that I've been exposing these powers and principalities of the air as exactly that. I believe they're interdimensional beings. I truly believe this is part of what Satan is going to use to deceive the whole world. In Matthew 24, Jesus tells us that men's hearts will fail them for those things which are coming on the earth. In the book of Revelation, John makes it perfectly clear that some of these beings that look like frogs, which I believe are what people are seeing as grays, go out to the kings of the earth. They're working with the governments of the world. And if you notice, within the last few years, the UFO phenomenon, the talk about the UFO phenomenon has not been as ridiculed or taboo, if you want to say, within just the last couple of years. Why is that? I believe that we are entering a time that was prophesied in the scripture. Back in the days of Enoch, in the days of Noah, these things were going on. So let me play this video for you. This is a first part of a video that I want to show you. And then the second video I'm going to show you, or second part, will be about a whistleblower from the U.S. Air Force that came out recently stating that the U.S. has retrieved craft from these powers and principalities. So I'll be getting into that as well. I believe Satan is exposing these things more and more as we near the return of Christ. Now let's listen to what Representative Burchett has to say about this.
Again, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, ma'am.
From what you're seeing, do you believe that a portion of these 650 cases actually originated from outer space?
I do. I think what the problem you have right now is we're asking the Pentagon to come forth with information that they've been covering up since at least 1947, the Roswell crash, and now they're going to ask us for funding, is what the Pentagon will do. That's their deal. You know, you have one side saying they're saying publicly that this is coming from some mothership or something, and then another one saying we have no indication that this is coming from extraterrestrials. Well, where else could it be? If it's not coming from China or Russia, they would own us if it was. And I just don't trust the Pentagon. I don't trust them at all. They've been covering this thing up, and that's who we're relying on for information. I've said this once, and I'll say it again. The way we're going to get this thing resolved is somebody's going to come out with some undeniable information, or the location of a craft, or some material that is extraterrestrial in nature, or footage that will have to come out, and it'll have to be better than these infrared sightings that we've seen.
Okay, and help us understand, because you're privy to a lot more information, and you spend a lot of your time taking a look at this. What has you convinced that some of the 650 cases are actually extraterrestrials and not just drones or balloons, etc.?
Well, I've talked to too many Navy pilots, Air Force pilots. These are the best pilots in the world, ma'am. They're not flying some Cessna around. They're flying multi-million-dollar aircraft. And they tell me they can't keep up with these things. These things they defy every law of physics that we have. Literally, the G's that these things turn would turn you and me into literally a ketchup package. I mean, it would liquefy us. They fly underwater and they have no heat signal. It's more than anything that's being done on this planet. That's the only answer there is. We've recovered stuff in the past, and they just won't come forth with it now. And
Representative, I'm sorry, I just want you to speak to this video we're showing right now. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Yes,
you can
That's
see
right.
this small silver orb. This was caught by the Pentagon. What is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this video specifically?
I think that I don't know. For instance, on this one, I've seen this one. I believe it was taken in Iraq, I believe. I'm more familiar with the ones that are taken by our Navy out over the ocean. But that's consistent with a lot of them that we've seen. That there is just no There's no heat signal. There's no identifiable
explanation. I hear you, and I'm sorry, we're almost out of time, but let me ask you why the Pentagon is saying these sightings are concentrated off the east and west coast of the U.S., an area in the South China Sea in the Middle East. Has anything been revealed to your panel on why these sightings are concentrated to these areas? Is there just more surveillance in these areas, or is there anything to it?
We have military operations in those areas. I've talked to pilots who stated that they go out on days on end and have these multiple sightings, and we've covered that up for quite some time now. And now it's starting to come forward, and the Pentagon's trying to play catch up, and the American public's not buying. They're just feeding us these little tidbits, man. There's a lot more out there. They need to come forth with it. It is a complete cover up, and they won't even release the Kennedy files. There's nobody even alive that was involved in the Kennedy assassination. They still won't release those. It's a power grab. It's about money. I mean, honestly, the Pentagon loses over $1 billion a year in their budget unaccounted for. And these are the people we're trusting to bring forth information. I don't think so. I hear your perspective. I hear your perspective, Tim. So no doubt in your mind that extraterrestrials have visited the United States, or I'm sorry, our country or our planet. Yes, ma'am. I mean, they're in the Bible. Ezekiel saw the wheel. Read the first chapter of Ezekiel, and it describes it pretty much. It's in hieroglyphics. It's in ancient writings and paintings and things. They're all very similar shape. I've talked to too many people that have had sightings that are educated people, man. It's not just some poor old redneck from Tennessee like myself. I never have had a sighting. So, I just think this is a cover up, and it is. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of it, but the Pentagon's just chasing dollars is all they're doing, ma'am. Okay, Representative Tim Burchett, I am so sorry we're out of time. Yes, ma'am. I do appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Thank you so much.
All right. So just to let you know, Tim Burchett, Congressman Tim Burchett, he's very interesting to follow on Twitter. If you have a Twitter account, he will tweet things based on this UFO phenomena. He's often used scripture in his tweets. So I believe this man is coming from this UFO phenomenon as from a godly perspective, and he's trying to expose things using the scripture, as you heard in this video, in this interview that News Nation was giving with him. But I can't stress enough that the church has to have a voice in this. This is not going away. This phenomena is becoming more and more and more prevalent in the news. And more so, 5 years ago, even if this story were to have come out, people either would have laughed or the story wouldn't have come out at all, because it would have been considered a career killer to come out with a topic like this, I believe. But I believe we're entering a time in the age where what the Lord spoke of in Matthew 24 is now becoming visible. The veil is being pulled back, and these powers and principalities are being exposed to the world at a breakneck speed, breakneck pace, more than ever before in history. And if you think about it, within the last 100 years, we've gone from horse and buggy, candles and oil lamps to where we are today. I don't believe that's an accident either. I believe these powers and principalities, the fallen angels that serve Satan, have purposely put this technology into the hands of man. Why? Not because he cares that he helps man become technological. No. According to Scripture, he's preparing an army. He's preparing for war with Christ when he returns. He and a third of the angels rebelled against God and were cast to the earth. And now he's trying to prepare for the coming day of the Lord when he makes war with Christ. He's going out to the kings of the earth with his fallen ones to create an army. And he's giving man this technology, hoping that it will boost his own army and those that fell with him to try and prevent the Lord from coming back into this world. And we know the end of the story, though. We know the Lord wins. He crushes his enemy and puts all enemies under his feet. So this is just the first part. I wanted to show those of you who are unfamiliar with Congressman Tim Burchett, an interview with him. He mentions the Bible. I encourage you to follow his Twitter feed. He speaks of this subject a lot and even mentions scripture quite a bit. Part 2 is coming up either later this evening or tomorrow. Thank you for following along. Again, the church needs to have a voice about this. Ephesians 5:11 says, expose the deeds of darkness. We need to know about it. We need to know, as soldiers for Christ, what our enemy is doing in this world. It's no good if a commander sends his soldiers or her soldiers out into a battlefield and you don't know what the enemy is up to. That would be absolutely suicide. So we as soldiers of Christ in a spiritual battle need to send people out into this world knowing what's going on, putting boots on the ground for Christ and knowing what the enemy is doing. No, do we focus on what the enemy is doing every day and live our lives by it? Of course not. But we should not be unaware of the tactics of the enemy. And when we are asked by an unbelieving world what is going on, we should have a voice. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Part 2 will be up soon.